All right, so let me keep reading. And yet, I say, as we shall shortly discover, most of the historic Judaisms that formed after the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 AD, they chose to articulate their ontological and pneumatological understanding of God and His Spirit in distinct polemical viewpoints that separated them from the rapidly growing Christian. And when we say Christian, we're really saying predominantly Greek thinking church of the late first century and following. Now, when I say polemical, we're talking essentially kind of defensive theology. You guys believe A, we believe B, right? You guys practice A, we practice B. You guys define as A, we practice and define as B. So it's the whole, what I call in psychological circles, othering, right? There's us and there's them. That's what we mean by othering, right? The others, O-T-H-E-R, other, othering with ing on the end of other. You know, how do you define yourself? Well, you define yourself by not being the other, right? You're everything that they are not, and everything they are is what you aren't, and things like that. That's the whole idea of othering. Well, Judaism is kind of reactionary, is what I mean by that, polemical. Judaism of the first century, after the destruction of the temple and with the emergence of Christianity on the scene, really viewed kind of Christianity as a competitive religion, a religion that was seeking to steal sheep from them, right? Disciples from them, people from their own synagogues, et cetera, as more and more Jewish people were coming on board with Jesus as Messiah, et cetera, et cetera. Judaism increasingly saw Christianity, or Messianic Judaism, the sect of Judaism, the sect of the way, as a threat to mainstream views of Judaism. And so eventually Christianity, as it began to self-identify over and against Judaism, right? The othering principle kind of blossomed. Then it wasn't just Christianity that was defining themselves against Judaism. Judaism was defining themselves against Christianity. And so the two religions are where they are today, where they're completely separate and distinct from one another. You know, there's some similarities between the two religions, but most people would say they're completely separate. All right, let's continue. I go on to say, in fact, when reading through the ancient rabbinic resources, due to the nature of how history played its hand in demonstrating the rise and spread of Christianity in and throughout the ancient Near Eastern part of the world. These are my own words, by the way. We're not into the rabbinic discussion just yet. I go on to say that it's hard sometimes to tell where original thought ends and reactionary sentiment begins. Indeed, in my opinion, a healthy percentage of ancient rabbinic theology seems at times to function as, quote, damage control, end quote, against extant forms of Christian theology, vis-a-vis, or as it pertains to God and His Holy Spirit. So, again, if you are able to access the Talmud and the Mishnah and the Gemara and all those other rabbinic writings, you're going to find that as you read through those, there's a lot in there that's really the rabbinic teacher's way of trying to reclaim ground that was lost to Christianity and Messianic Judaism as a result of, you know, the widespread, rapid spread first century movement of Christianity that took place. And the rabbis are just like, you know, what do we do? What do we do? Judaism's crumbling. And so they were kind of in doing what I call damage control, trying to figure out what do we do? I know, let's just, you know, continue to show how Judaism is not Christianity and show how Judaism is the true way of approaching God, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of what's going on.